Hi everyone. In this video, I just wanted to briefly talk about the project I've been working on, which is the Normans in the Second Crusade in Iberia, about circa 1147, the Siege of Lisbon, and sort of my approach and philosophy for making the miniatures, um, because there are not a lot of purpose-made miniatures for the Second Crusade. Just wanted to go over some of the progress I've made and my approach for kitbashing some figures and things like that. So if you don't know, the Norman involvement in the Second Crusade, actually pretty interesting. Not a very big involvement, but essentially the Normans and the English originally wanted to go on crusade in the Holy Land, which was going on at the time. And so they set off on their ships, and bad weather essentially forced them to land in northern Iberia. And then there they were approached by Afonso, the future first king of Portugal. And Afonso asked them for assistance in fighting against the Moors, which the Iberians had been doing for some time at that point. Essentially, the Normans agreed to it. The Normans and the other Crusaders got assurance from the church that yes, this would count as a crusade. You'll get all the heavenly delights for helping out in the crusade. So they agreed and they joined the fight. And also, what makes this project unique is the mid 12th century, so about 1150 or so, was a time of change. Militarily speaking, so changing armor, changing weapons, changing shields, which also makes it a little bit difficult to model your figures, and there's a lot of change going on. So let's go over how I approach it. Now, as a preface, I'm not guaranteeing anything here is 100% historically accurate, just based on the research I've done, and to a degree that makes me satisfied and happy. And as with everything, especially given this time in history, there's not tons and tons of written documentation, so there's a little bit of a grain of salt. So the Normans, you have your standard Norman that everybody kind of knows, the nasal helmet, the chainmail shirt, and the kite shield. So this is kind of your standard Norman here. So I have plenty of these in the army. This is the standard Norman kit from Victrix, straight out of the bag. I have plenty more of these. This is the only one I had laying about. The kitbash, or the basing, is not done. So I have a lot of this in the army, just a bog standard Norman everyone would recognize. Because the kite shield was still in a lot of use at this time. Circa 1147, like I said, this project is based on around the Siege of Lisbon. This one in particular, the Norman dragon motif on the shield there, probably not hugely in use anymore with the Normans. But I have some shield transfers from Victrix. This one's already made up, so I guess I'll use some creative liberties with this one. But yeah, so lots of standard Normans with the standard Norman kit, so to speak. But also in 1147, you had the heater shield was being introduced. Maybe not the heater shield as everyone knows, but there was what was known as the transitional heater. So it was sort of the midway between a kite shield and the smaller heater shield. Looks kind of like this. It's wider and longer than the heater shield that came to be, which is available. You'll see in other kits. So this was likely being used on the continent. I'm going to say that Normans also probably had it and were exposed to it even more on the continent. So this is another way I'm just showing the transition in the equipment in the Second Crusade. So we have a Norman here with the traditional, the tall nasal helmet, but then he has a newer transitional heater shield, and then just a sword, which is always in style. And then we have another one here, another transitional heater, and the chainmail shirt and the nasal helmet. And also with armor, based on what I've read, the chainmail, people wearing more and more chainmail. Not just the shirt, but then covering your arms, your hands, your legs, your feet. So I've got this one here. Maybe this is more of a more well-to-do or a knight Norman. So he's got the full body chainmail, but still with the nasal helmet. I forget what this is. The Phrygian style, I believe that's called, with the raised top there on the nasal helmet. So maybe he's got like a hand-me-down, his father's helmet or something. And for these kitbashes, what I'm using is the Victrix, the medieval foot sergeant's kit. It's the newer kit. I believe it's the first kit in their medieval line. As far as the Europeans, so they have some Islamic ones as well. But as far as Europeans, I believe is the first one. They have some newer ones that were released since then. So it's this one. Not enough room. You get the idea. There's lots of good parts in there. That one is geared towards late 12th century, early 13th century. So a little later than the Siege of Lisbon, which I'm aiming for, but there's still a lot of good parts in there. I think like the transitional heater is in there. There are some traditional heaters which I'm not using, or I may be using like one or two just to show maybe it's a new innovation, but kind of staying away from that. And then helmets, I don't know, I couldn't find tons of accurate information on helmets during circa 1150. We have this sort of kettle style helmet in that foot sergeant's kit. From what I read, this may have started to have been introduced on the continent. These sort of proto kettle helms. This may be too new for the time, so I'm sparingly using these just to show the evolution of warfare and military equipment in the Crusades, just to show these aren't your older Normans. These aren't your anarchy Normans. These are the next generation, so to speak, of Normans. So I'll use those sparingly just because I'm not sure if this is an 100% accurate helmet. And he's got the newer spear style, and like this one here too. This was also in the foot sergeant's kit. This almost like a crude halberd. I don't know what you call this, but he's got the pot helmet without the nasal guard. So I'm adding those in as well, just to show different style helmets that may have been evolving on the continent and then in England. And then, of course, we should still have some of the other bog standard Normans. This is actually a Perry Miniatures medal. This is meant for First Crusades, but he's got all the right stuff. And of course, you can't pass up Perry medals, so I'll add him into the army. And then we have sort of maybe this is one of our commanders, one of our knights. So he's got the full body chainmail, and then still with a nasal helmet, the fancy fluted metal helmet. So sort of harkening back to the older designs, but more of a fancy style, just for him to stand out. And then also the transitional heater on the back, just to maybe show you it's a little more up with the equipment. He's got money to really kit himself out on Crusade. And then I'm doing for the archers, or the ranged units. These are the Norman crossbows. From what I've read, the style was still in use. There, on the continent was the goat's foot style with the lever and the ring at the end. Here you'd put your foot in for support, which Victrix does have a kit for that, the newer kit in the medieval line, which I could very easily put in this army. It's more so that kit released after I started this, and I don't want to spend like another $50 on crossbowmen when I already have this kit, and it'd be a lot of money just for some ranged units. Then I do have these. I do have these guys. Classic kit, maybe just for like militia or some guys pressed into service in Iberia. So these would be like Iberians. And then also in this foot soldiers kit here, foot sergeants, you get a lot of bodies with tabards, which, soldiers, knights were not using. Your standard soldier was not wearing it during, circa 1150. However, you get a lot of them, and it seemed like kind of a waste of money to pay for that kit and not use them. So I thought I would use them for military order. So like here's one. So I thought I could do the, hold on, focus. So this would be like a Knight Hospitaller. Now, this cut of the tabard is probably a little too modern, so to speak. They were, because there were military orders. I believe the Templars and the Hospitallers were active in Iberia, fighting during the Second Crusade, and they were wearing tabards to some degree. However, this cut is probably a little too tailored, so to speak. Their tabards are probably more monk-like, more loose and flowing. But I figure for miniature gaming purposes, this will be good for them to, just to have them stand out as military order, rather than just be your bog standard Normans or other Crusaders. Be a good use of them. And I do give him the newer helmet as well. But I do have some other ones. Just a second. Like this one here. So he's got the tabard, but he's got the sort of the old school nasal helmet and the throat guard. So sort of showing that even the Hospitallers too, they have a mix of old and new equipment, just to show that that transition of military equipment. There's a lot of standard or older helmets and weapons, but then there's a lot of new stuff coming online that's starting to spread throughout the continent, especially in times of warfare. When necessity is the mother of invention, they say. So that's good to show. So yeah, that's my thought process for the Second Crusade. For the Normans, I think it's a really interesting time, and a really interesting group. Because the Normans kind of appeared all over Europe for quite a while there. So it's another area they pop up in. Another something you don't see people doing too many projects of. So that'd be something to try my hand at. So that's it for now. Let's keep plugging away at this project, and if you're doing Second Crusade yourself, let me know, and if you have any ideas, or if this gave any ideas in this video. And that's it for now, so I'll see you next time. Thanks.